You gonna handle it? We seen what you did with Shedeur. And it was unacceptable. No blacker division than the NFC South. I'm telling you, you got Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans.
Carolina,
that's the blackest division in all of football. Shedeur, a member of the culture.
Yeah.
And you probably done landed in the most culturist
of culture.
Oh
my.
Cam Newton has erupted with a blistering critique of the Atlanta Falcons ownership over their decision to appoint Kevin Stefanski as head coach, and he did not hold back for a second, delivering a raw and unapologetic takedown that has sent shockwaves through the NFL conversation, accusing the organization of turning its back on culture, community, and most pointedly, young black quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, who Newton believes was actively undermined during Stefanski's time in Cleveland, framing this move not as a routine coaching hire, but as a deeper betrayal with real consequences, making it clear that this isn't just about football decisions anymore, but about trust, opportunity, and a system that, in his view, continues to fail players who deserve better.
The NFC South is almost the HBCU of NFL football.
Oh, very.
The Atlanta Falcons, a team based in one of the most black majority cities in the United States and competing in what many see as the NFL's most culturally black division. The NFC South have sparked serious backlash by appointing Kevin Stefanski as head coach, and Cam Newton has labeled the move a direct insult to the culture, the community, and everything Atlanta stands for, openly questioning how ownership could review Stefanski's record, especially his treatment of Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, and still decide he was the right man to lead the franchise, with Newton pulling no punches as he accused Stefanski of denying Sanders a fair opportunity, arguing that the real issue was discomfort with Sanders' background, identity, and connection to authentic black culture, suggesting this decision reflects a deeper failure to understand or respect the very community the Falcons represent.
Kevin Stefanski is this.
Yeah.
Who has gotten better from the player's perspective that you can hang your hat on?
So I coached this guy. I made his career.
The big question Cam Newton keeps pressing is simple. How is this going to work? Especially when you remember what happened with Shedeur Sanders, because if you pause and look at the optics, the concern becomes impossible to ignore with a coach arriving from Cleveland, a franchise that had very few black players who genuinely reflected the culture, now being placed in charge of a team in Atlanta, a city where the fan base and wider community are overwhelmingly black, making the cultural disconnect glaring. And Newton has been determined to put that contrast front and center, asking why anyone should expect a different outcome when the same coach is put in a similar position again, arguing this isn't about one moment or one mistake, but about a wider pattern, a repeated inability or unwillingness to properly support and develop young black quarterbacks from authentic cultural backgrounds. And when Newton bluntly stated that narratives would be rewritten to blame Shedeur rather than the system around him, he made it clear he believes the responsibility lies squarely with Stefanski, a claim that, when viewed alongside the track record, many fans are finding increasingly difficult to dismiss.
Kevin Stefanski is this.
Yeah.
Who has gotten better from the player's perspective that you can hang your hat on?
So I coached this guy. I made his career.
Newton also drew attention to a pattern that, in his view, has become hard to ignore, arguing that players rarely seem to improve under Kevin Stefanski, not just in isolated cases, but across different seasons, squads, and situations. And he stressed that this issue appears even more pronounced when it comes to young black quarterbacks, using Shedeur Sanders as his clearest example, a talented young passer with pedigree, tools, and upside who, according to Newton, was poorly handled, rarely put in positions to succeed, and ultimately left exposed rather than developed, which makes the Atlanta appointment feel like a reward for failure rather than accountability. And Cam insisted this concern goes far beyond one individual, because the Falcons are packed with young prospects whose growth depends heavily on coaching, raising the question of what outcome ownership realistically expects when hiring someone he believes has repeatedly failed to nurture young talent. particularly young black players, a criticism Newton framed not as guesswork or exaggeration, but as a conclusion drawn from visible trends and on-field results over time.
We've seen don't get better with Kevin Stefanski. And I'm looking at the personnel of the Atlanta Falcons. They're a young team. You got Michael Penix as your quarterback, Drake London as your receiver, Kyle Pitts,
Bijan.
Like, that's a very young team. Like, your team is young. It's like you're inheriting something that's already great and ready to rock and roll.
The irony of the situation is hard to ignore, because Atlanta have hired a coach whose track record suggests he has struggled to develop the very type of young talent already on their roster. A move Cam Newton has compared to putting someone who keeps failing math exams in charge of advanced calculus. And he didn't rely on emotion alone to make his case, instead pointing to the numbers, noting that Kevin Stefanski's results over the past 2 seasons were actually worse than those of the coach. The Falcons chose to replace, which raises an obvious question about logic and accountability, especially when you factor his time in Cleveland where, under his leadership, the Browns rotated through 13 different quarterbacks without turning a single one into a reliable franchise option, a pattern that goes far beyond normal trial and error and suggests a deeper issue with coaching philosophy and player development. And while some defenders still cling to that one playoff appearance, Newton dismissed it as revisionist thinking, arguing the roster talent carried the team despite the coaching rather than because of it, followed by years of stagnation, regression, and young quarterbacks leaving with their confidence and potential diminished, something Newton says he has been consistently vocal about for a long time, long before this Atlanta hire, stressing that when failure repeats itself across multiple seasons and multiple players, the blame can no longer be shifted onto individuals. It sits squarely with the system and the coach running it, which is why, in his view, this hire goes beyond tactics or playbooks and becomes a broader conversation about culture, opportunity, and whether young black players are truly being put in positions to succeed, a question he believes the Falcons should have asked much earlier.